From Washington, I'm Christopher Cruz. President Obama spoke to the nation Friday afternoon after a shooting at an elementary school in the eastern state of Connecticut. 26 people were killed. The president said he and parents across the country are feeling great sadness because of the shooting. He wiped tears from his eyes as he spoke at the White House. He said most of the victims were children between 5 and 10 years old.
They had their entire lives ahead of them. Birthdays, graduations, weddings, kids of their own.
A state police lieutenant told reporters that 20 children and 6 adults were killed at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. He said the gunman was also dead. News reports said the suspected gunman was a man in his 20s named Adam Lanza. The reports say his mother worked at the school and was killed in the attack. President Obama says he would like what he calls meaningful action to prevent more killings like the one in Connecticut on Friday. He said it is time to take action to stop more disasters, even if the action is not politically popular. Some observers said the president was talking about the political influence which the National Rifle Association has over members of the House and Senate. The observers say that influence keeps Congress from placing restrictions on the sale of guns. Clashes broke out Friday in the Egyptian city of Alexandria between supporters and opponents of Egypt's proposed new constitution. Witnesses say fighting between protesters began Friday near a religious center in Alexandria. Several cars were set on fire. In Cairo and in other cities, thousands of people gathered to support or oppose the Constitution, a day before a nationwide vote on the measure. The Constitution has the support of President Mohamed Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood and conservative Salafist groups. However, members of the liberal, Christian, and secular opposition fear it will interfere with civil liberties. The measure raises the importance of Islamic law and does not protect women's rights. The president of the European Union Council says all possibilities are being considered to help Syria's opposition defeat the government of President Bashar al-Assad. Herman van Rompuy spoke after an EU meeting in Belgium on Friday. He said members of the EU believe it is time for President Assad to leave office. He suggested that it is possible the EU will supply Syrian rebels with non-deadly military equipment or even with weapons.
The European Council remains actively engaged and tasks the Foreign Affairs Council to look, and I'm quoting, at all options to support and help the opposition and to enable the greater support for the protection of civilians.
British Prime Minister David Cameron said the situation in Syria is getting worse. In his words, there is no single simple answer, but inaction and indifference are not options. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English from Washington. South Korea says its Navy has recovered part of the wreckage from North Korea's rocket launch earlier this week. The material will be examined to learn more about the North's knowledge of missiles. The spokesman said the wreckage will be important in learning what the rocket was made of, its size, the force used during its launch, and what was on the rocket. The North says the rocket was used to put a weather satellite into orbit, but South Korea believes the launch is linked to the North's nuclear weapons program. The United States is sending 2 Patriot missile batteries and 400 soldiers to Turkey. American officials say the move will help Turkey defend itself against possible rocket strikes from Syria. A Defense Department official said the missile batteries would be deployed in the next few weeks, but he did not say exactly where they would be sent. Germany and the Netherlands are also sending Patriot batteries to Turkey as part of the operation, which will be under the direction of NATO. A South African official is denying reports that Nelson Mandela has left the hospital after being treated for a lung infection. Associated Press Television reported Friday that a private medical vehicle believed to be carrying the former president had left the Mediclinic Heart Hospital in Pretoria. But a presidential spokesman told VOA that reports of Mr. Mandela leaving the hospital are untrue. However, the spokesman refused to say where the 94-year-old former leader was. Nelson Mandela was sent to the hospital last Saturday. The United States and many European countries have refused to sign a United Nations treaty that would give governments greater control of the Internet. Representatives from 89 countries signed the treaty in Dubai on Friday, but representatives from 55 countries, led by the United States, objected. And finally at this hour, President Obama says federal officials will not bring charges against marijuana users in states where the use of the drug is legal. In addition to choosing a president, voters in Colorado and Washington state legalized the use of marijuana for personal enjoyment. Since then, people have wondered how that could be possible if such use is illegal under federal law. President Obama told ABC television that it does not make sense for the government to focus on recreational drug users in a state that has already said that under state law that is legal.